If you have leftover batting strips and you're wondering what to do with them, you're going to want to watch today's video because I'm going to show you how you can take those strips and create kind of new batting. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts, and today I'm going to be talking about what I call Frankenstein batting. So, you know when you do a quilt and you cut off the excess backing and batting and you have leftover strips, or just you have leftover batting strips because you've cut into a piece and you've got these weird little leftover shapes. They're too small to throw away, they're not big enough to put on another project. What are we going to do with them? Okay, no one likes to waste materials. No one likes to waste fabric. No one wants to waste batting either. So let's talk about how we can take this batting and put these strips together so that they are, again, useful and can be used in your next project. So I've got a couple pieces of batting here, and these are offcuts, like I said, from when I was long arming and I had the extra batting and backing, and I cut these strips off. So again, there's not very much here that I can do with this unless I'm doing a really, really, really small project. But if I put the two of them together, I get a lot more quilts, a lot more batting that can be useful in another project. And of course, you can continue adding to this. I'm just using two strips to show you the technique, but you can just keep adding and adding and adding to it, stitching these together to create that Frankenstein batting. All right, so let's talk about how we do this. And then I'm going to go to the machine and actually show you what stitch I use and the adjustments I make on my machine when I do this. But first, let's talk about putting them together, okay? So your first thought might be, let's put the batting together and let's just stitch it along the line here. And I've got to admit, I have done this in some situations when I'm just doing a small wall hanging. However, if you're doing a bigger project and you're stitching a whole bunch of these together, if you have these butted up against each other and you're sewing them together, and by the way, I would cut these, cut a nice straight line on both of them so they butt up perfectly, you're going to have that straight line running this way or this way, depends, through your quilt. And like I said, if you add a bunch of different batting pieces onto this, you're going to have these lines, and they may show up, especially if you have, like if you were doing, let's say, a whole cloth quilt and you have these batting lines, they're going to show up and distract from your project and from your quilting on the project. So you don't want to do that. So you want to have an uneven join, if you will. Let's just call it that. So how you do that is you're going to take, and I'm going to move these around a different way here. You're going to take your batting and you're going to overlap your strips, okay? So I'm going to take these and overlap them. And by the way, the binding strips do not have to be the same length at all, okay? You can trim those up later, not to worry. And using this method, you also don't need to make sure that there's straight lines here. What you do need to make sure is that there's enough of an overlap here that I can cut through both of them, and that cut is going to be on both lines, okay? So I'm going to just do a little bit here. Move this along because I can't cut this all. This is a really long strip, so I can't cut it all. I don't want to take too much of your time here showing this part about it, okay? But we'll just show you part of what I would do. So I'm going to take my rotary cutter, and I want to cut and keep myself within this line and within that line, so I can see underneath. I can see that batting piece. So I don't want to be cutting off way off into here because it's going to waste my batting strip as well. So we're just going to do a nice curvy line. Doesn't have to be perfect, but big curves, okay? So this is what you're doing. You're cutting through, and I know I'm going to be going out of your frame here in a minute, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to pull this back. Okay, I would typically cut it the other way so I've got more room, but just so you can see it on camera. So I'm making sure I'm staying within that line on the top and within the one on the bottom too that I can see through. And we just cut through there to the edge. Okay, so I will have some waste, okay? You can use that for stuffing if you want, these little bits here, okay? These are getting really, really close to the edge here. Whoops, we got a little bit of, this is a longer piece here, so that's why it wasn't cut through. All right, so now I've got this just gently curvy line here, and they will now fit together, okay? So let me just show you one edge here that you can see. Remember I said that was longer, I had to cut that off. That's okay, we'll trim it later. And so you can see how this is going to, fit along really nicely together, okay? So the next thing I want to do is I want to sew these together. And I'm going to do this differently. It's not like sewing a 1/4 inch seam. It's going to be different than that. So let's go to the sewing machine and I can show you how we're going to stitch these together. Now, a few things I want to mention to you before we get going. First off, I'm using black thread. I wouldn't normally use black thread, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And if I use the matching thread, which is just my regular piecing thread, you wouldn't be able to see what I'm stitching here. So I've changed to black thread. Don't use black thread, okay? Use a thread color that matches your batting, and I'm just using a 100% cotton thread to do this. Second thing is you want to be using a zigzag stitch, and you may have to make some adjustments on your machine. I'm going to do that on mine. So first off, I want to have as wide as I can stitch. Okay, so in my case, I'm using a 9mm machine, so I'm going to adjust the stitch width to 9mm, and I'm adjusting the length as well. Let's see, maybe 3.5, something like that. Okay, so this is not a satin stitch, okay? It's a wide, open zigzag stitch just to get these pieces together, all right? Okay, got those things out of the way. Now, the other thing is, remember how I cut the curves in the batting? So now you can see that I'm able to butt those pieces, those batting pieces together, and I'm going to be stitching back and forth across them. My machine has the option of a right applique or zigzag stitch. They call it an applique stitch, but zigzag stitch, or a middle one. I'm using the middle one because I'm going to use that cut area as the middle, and my foot that I'm using actually has a mark on it in the center. It's probably hard for you to see, but there's a little mark in the center. So if I line that up along the cut edges, it's going to put that zigzag stitch back and forth evenly on both sides, I hope. Okay. So take your time doing this. It's not a rush or anything. You might have to adjust as you go along. And I've got long piece of batting, 2 long pieces of batting here. You may not have that much, but it won't take that long really. Needle down, make sure I'm at least on one side of that line there, and we'll get going. I'm probably stitching too fast right now. I'm going to slow my machine down a little bit. Okay. And you see what happens here if I'm going off. Okay, now I need to stop because I've got myself totally off here, not paying attention. There we go. So sometimes you have to stop and adjust your batting pieces a little bit there. All right, so I think you understand what I'm doing here. You can see that I'm going back and forth across that cut area, and I'm joining those pieces of batting close together with that zigzag stitch. So I'm going to finish this, and then I can show you what it looks like. So here's what the pieces look like when I put them together, and by using that black thread, it really looks like Frankenstein batting, doesn't it? Remember, you're not going to use black thread. Now, while I've taken these leftover batting pieces and put them together, if you have a really, pretty large piece of batting that's just a little bit short for the project you need, consider doing the same thing. Get some extra batting pieces, put them on the side or the bottom or wherever you may need it, and that's a good way to, prevent you from having to cut into, a nice full size piece of batting that you may not want to do that, right? So remember, if you're doing this, that you're going to overlap them, you're going to cut that curvy line, and so this way when I put it into a project, okay, let's say I have fabric over top, you're not, your eye is not going to follow that line along, but if it was a straight line, it definitely would. So this is a really good method to use up some of those extra batting pieces that you may have, save yourself a little money because you don't have to buy new batting, because I'm sure if you're like me, you've got all kinds of batting pieces left over in your studio. Now, before I finish the video today, I just wanted to point out to you, if you're a subscriber of mine, you've been watching my videos for a while, you may notice that below the video there's a new icon. It's a heart with a $sign inside of it. And what that is your opportunity to say thank you and to support the Chatterbox Quilts YouTube channel. So you can donate for as little as $2, and that helps me to buy the items I need to buy to produce these free videos for you. So if you would like to donate and contribute to, or I should say support, the Chatterbox Quilts company, just hit that heart with the $sign in it and you can donate the amount that you would like. And if you would do that, I would be very appreciative. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to share it with your quilting friends. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video. And before you go, check out these other videos I've included just for you. For more helpful quilting information, please go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.